As I mentioned, my name is Jerry Jones, and today we're going to be doing a webinar with two members of the American Academy of Dental Practice, and which I termed earlier today in an email as sort of the Underground Dental Practice Management Association. And it's an association few people have actually heard of. So in this case, it's time that we kind of blow the sides off, blow the lid off, and sort of get the name of AADPA out there and some of the incredible benefits that it can bring to dentists. So with me, you won't be able to see him, but you'll certainly be able to hear him, is Dr. Alan Rauschberg, this year's president of the AADPA. And also with us is an esteemed member, Dr. Phil Strebe. You can see Dr. Strebe here if you're joining us on the internet. And Dr. Strebe, we're streaming live on this webinar. And we've got a number of folks that will be joining us during the webinar. And this webinar will also be made available later on for viewing purposes at any point in time. So Dr. Phil, can you hear me okay? I can hear you talk. I can see you talking, but I can't hear you. I can't hear your voice. But we'll try and work our way through that here as we go along. And you may want to make sure that your audio controller, your microphone controller there on your computer is working and dialed into this. And while you're doing that, Phil, that's okay. We can kind of move forward. And Alan, you can hear me okay, correct?
I can, absolutely. Sure.
All right, fantastic. So Phil, when you do identify the audio portion there, just go ahead and speak up, and if that presents itself as a problem, then the alternative is the dial in by telephone, which is also fine. So let's go ahead and get started. So today we're going to cover a number of different topics that are all about the AADPA, and I figured who better to talk about it than one of the members and also the president of the AADPA, which again, the AADPA stands for American Academy of Dental Practice. And with us on the line is Dr. Alan Rauschberg. And Alan, you've been a member since 1995, and I know you've got a really cool story to go along with that. And Dr. Phil Strebe's been a member since 1999. Himself, I'm sure, also a great story that we'll be sharing here in a moment. But I kind of wanted to go through this, and associations are sort of an odd duck in dentistry, and they're odd because first of all, there's a lot of them, and there's a lot of them that really I've come to realize really don't do anything. They just are there, and they're just sort of a dentist can belong to them, and they can put it on their mask or their letterhead, and and talk about belonging to it to others. And then there are some other associations that do a tremendous amount to advance dentistry, and also a tremendous amount to advance the careers and the strength of businesses of dental practices. And to me, the AADPA is absolutely in that last category. They do some tremendous things for members, and it's fueled by members, not some distant group of ivory tower tin gods who have no clue what's happening in the real world. So I think that's something that makes the AADPA unique. But Dr. Allen, I've got some questions for you, and then we'll go on over to Phil. So you've been a member since 1995. What initially attracted you to the American Academy of Dental Practice?
Well, Jerry, my father happened to be a member way back when, and I started going to meetings. He always talked about it with me when I was in dental school, but I started going right after I graduated, and so I was lucky enough that my father got me involved. But I've been going, actually, I think my first meeting was like 1993. Now, I actually didn't become a member in 2001, but I've been going to meetings for a long time.
Mm-hmm. So you were sort of introduced by your dad, and you saw, you went to this first meeting. I remember you shared with me the first meeting you went to. At that meeting, what struck you as, wow, this is a group of people that I really want to hang out with. I want to be part of what they're doing. What was there something?
Being right out of dental school, and I just showing up there and seeing some of the members who were, big time speakers in the dental field, or you'd see their name in a dental magazine, and then all of a sudden there they are, sitting next to you, or speaking up on the podium. And I thought, wow, this is pretty crazy. I'm sitting next to so and so, and he this guy's been, a dental guy for the last 20, 30 years. So that was pretty exciting as, as a young dentist, that you got to mingle with some of the bigwigs in dentistry.
Yeah, some of those folks who've kind of been there, done that, and not only do you get to mingle with them, you also get to pick their brains, right? I mean, you actually have the opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with some of those folks.
Yeah, no, and that's true. I mean, sometimes you go to meetings and then no one really shares with anybody. That's what sets this group apart from anybody that I've ever been associated with. Is everybody here really cares about one another, and they're willing to share what's working for them, what's not working for them. And even listen, even if you've been a dentist for 2 years or been doing it for 30 years, no one, everyone's willing to help out each other, and that's the difference. They really care about each other.
Yeah, it's hard. Dentists are already isolated. They're practiced by nature. A solo practice is by nature, by creation, sort of what's the term I'm looking for? Isolated. And so being on your own makes it tough. I mean, it's challenging. If you're all by yourself, you don't know who to talk to, what questions to ask, where to seek guidance or knowledge, or where to go to improve your business. So, I mean, being around that kind of environment has got to be inspiring. It's got to really fuel the fire, so to speak.
I mean, it was always the best meeting that I went to every year. I mean, I always look forward to it, because you're right. I mean, not only did we learn from one another, but there were speakers about leadership or business or personal growth, or how to balance that life, family, business. Get that all in tune. So you're always learning something and coming away with always improving from what you heard.
Right. You mentioned two words, personal growth and development. Those are really not common words spoken in the dental industry. I mean, I've been around this game for over 20 years, and as have you. And that's not a real popular phrase to throw around much. I mean, you just don't hear it. So that's always been a frustration for me. Is dentists, like any business owner, they need leadership skills. They need to grow personally, in addition to clinically, in
right.
honing their clinical skills. They got to stay on top of leadership skills and really focus on their own personal development. And there's sort of a hole in dentistry where that really doesn't exist, where you can go and participate. I mean, I thought there was, but you introduced me to the AADPA, and I think that's one of the coolest parts about it. As far as professional development, personal development, what has been maybe one or two significant events through AADPA that has really impacted you?
Well, I mean, again, listening to some of these speakers, and they're not always dentists that are up there speaking. There's psychologists, they're business people. They just happen to be speaking to a group of dentists and dental consultants. But I think some of the big things I've taken from over the years is, one is improving my leadership in the business, improving, just my interaction with my wife and kids. And just having that vision of what I want to do long term. Not only is it business wise, family wise, getting me to think more long term than just, hey, I got my schedule. I'm working 9 to 5 tomorrow. It's kind
Right.
of really working, and not only working in the business, but working on the business. And I think that's what a lot of docs forget about. That working in the business is important, but if you don't do the other part as well, it's like Groundhog Day every day. You're just doing the same thing over and over again.
And expecting something different to be at the end of the day, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Alan, that's some really sage advice, and also a great identifier of what you've gotten. A couple of big things that you've gotten out of your membership in the AADPA. I'm going to head on over here to Phil, and Phil's joining us now, and we can hear him. And Phil, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about who you are and maybe some of your background in dentistry, and then why you got involved with the AADPA?
Yeah, I'd love to. Jerry, I was invited for years. First of all, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great. You're coming through loud and clear.
Okay, so I wanted to make sure the audio was okay.
Yep.
I had a friend in Omaha and a friend in Vancouver that had been inviting me for years to go to AADPA, and I really didn't know anything about it. shortly after getting out of dental school, I was on a journey to pursue lots of technical continuing education. And I realized when I went to my first AADPA meeting how very important it is to develop the non-technical side of our life and of our dental life and our practice. And so I went to this very first meeting and I heard this photographer that gave me this unbelievable lesson about life. And I said, I'm never going to miss another one of these meetings again. And I haven't. And it was life-changing for me. The very first AADPA speaker that I ever heard, DeWitt Jones. And so it opened my eyes to realize that there's so much more to dentistry. It's not just being technically proficient. It's not just going from one technical course to another, but there's a whole soft side of dentistry, communication, leadership, running your practice, all kinds of things like that. Obviously technical, to be a master dentist, you have to be very, very good technically. But in order to be a complete dentist, as one of our members, Tom Dawson, refers to a lot, he says, you've got to have this other side of dentistry under control. You've got to be able to have your communication, your leadership, and your practice, and all of that really needs to be a part of your repertoire and a part of your learning, and also your personal growth, your professional growth. It's just, I think it's critical to be a complete dentist.
Yeah, I would agree. You know, you mentioned, you know, clinically excellent, and every dentist, when they go to dental school, they're trained to really just have the basics, right? I mean, you get the basics, and then once you leave dental school, that's when the real learning begins on the clinical side, because you learn through repetition, you learn through new techniques and advancement of techniques, improvements of techniques, but that only gets you to a certain point, and it's not very far as career success goes, or probably even career satisfaction. I look at dentistry kind of maybe a little different than a lot of folks. I see this 85-15 or even 80-20 component to dentistry, and you know, success in dentistry, and if you define success as being fulfilled, being happy, and being able to go home to your spouse at the end of the day and, you know, give him or her a high five, feel good about what you accomplished, I'd be willing to bet that less than 15%, maybe even only 10% of your day, that satisfaction arrives from the clinical aspect. Whereas the interactions with staff, with your patients, and with anybody really in business gives you that big satisfaction, that happiness factor that clinical dentistry alone, I don't imagine can deliver. So AADPA for you sort of filled in the void for clinical, right?
Without a doubt.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to Alan for a moment. Alan,
Sure.
Let's talk tangible benefits, because you know we can sort of get this esoteric bent, if you will, on this webinar, and talk about AADPA and how it helps with leadership and with some components like that. But what about tangible benefits? What can you give 2 or 3 big tangible benefits that you and Dr. Phil would agree with you on as far as benefits go?
Well, I mean, tangible benefits, I mean, for one, it's helped me grow my business. I've been able to, after my father, we worked together for quite a few years. He kind of pulled back and he's retired now, but able to, you know, we've probably grown our numbers from when we started to probably 5 times that, doubled our size. I'm not working as much as I used to. I have some high school soccer players, one that just went off to college, one that's in his junior year. You know, I'll be able to make sure I go to just about every game. I'll miss a few games. But, you know, I'm able to do those things because I planned ahead, and with the knowledge I've gotten over the last, 10, 15 years, been able to, do that, where, maybe I'm sure if I didn't belong to this group, probably would never notice. I'd be working with my head down 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, not getting anywhere. So really, gave me some insight on not only, again, growing the business, but making sure that I'm spending that family time that you just don't get back, because kids grow up real quick.
They do. We were talking about that at the beginning before we started the recording, and you have 2 college-age kids. I've got one that's a senior this year, and it goes by like that. And I mean, not having your business built around your life rather than your life built around your business, it really can take a toll. Not only would you probably not be 5 times larger than when you started, with your dad, you probably might have only doubled or maybe only tripled in that period of time. But, having the resources that the AADPA provides, the people you've been exposed to, the thought processes you've been exposed to, I'm sure have really amplified your game and advanced you far further than maybe what you ever thought when you even got started. Which is an interesting question. When you started out in dentistry and you joined your father's practice, did you have a goal in mind on where you wanted to get to, and have you met that goal yet?
I definitely have surpassed it. I mean, I don't even think coming out, I was just worried about making some money so I could, pay the rent, that month, and support. We had one little daughter. My daughter was young at that age. I don't even think I didn't even think I was thinking past, a month down the road. So it definitely changed just my thought process and everything, just life in general. And got to look at the big picture and not sweat the small stuff. And, as long as you keep that vision and keep working towards it, listen, it may take you a while to get there, but, as long as keep on the progression, you'll get there and
Right.
good things will happen.
Yep. Phil, what about you? Tangible benefits for your time in the AADPA. What have you seen for tangible benefits from your experience?
There's 2 things that come to mind. And the first is that, again, goes back to my technical versus non-technical discussion earlier. We may be a really fabulous technical dentist if we pursue lots of technical dentistry, but unless we get our communication skills, our staff involvement communication skills, and get our systems in a row and get our practice running, we may not ever get that dentistry off the shelf and into people's mouths. So there's no question about it. It's led to a lot of, because I've been able to communicate and develop a good relationship of trust and rapport with my patients, I've been able to do a lot of large cases that I probably wouldn't have been able to do had I not been able to hone my communication and leadership skills, and then to be able to deliver that. So that's one thing that I think is really important. The other, a tangible benefit, is really networking with other like-minded people, and not just dentists, but consultants, people that are seeking, and I determine the people that attend the AADPA meetings are seekers. They really want to learn. They want to grow. They all do. And so we learn from each other. And I've got some great friends in the academy that are unbelievable in certain aspects of their practice. And every one of our practices is different. Alan's practice model is significantly different than mine. Mm-hmm. I'm always picking his brain, trying to figure out, how I can, edge a little bit more toward Alan's practice. So it's just a great opportunity to communicate and network with some fantastic dentists and consultants from around the country.
You mentioned something I probably should have asked both of you at the beginning, because you do have completely different styles of practices, yet you both have been incredibly successful. You're giving a lot of credit to, number one, being a seeker of information and knowing what you don't know and going out and trying to fill that void. And you found that being filled through AADPA. Phil, why don't you take maybe a minute or two to describe your practice, maybe what it was like before finding AADPA and what it's like today.
My practice is a small niche type practice. We only have 3 total operatories. It's just, I'm the only practicing dentist. I've got one hygienist that's there 3 days a week, one hygienist that's there 1 day a week, and then every other week for a second day. So we're small, and we're small by design. And in doing that, in practicing that way, I have such significant relationships with our patients, and they with I. And we can communicate and relate so well. And we rarely have a patient that leaves the practice. There's not a day that goes by that I don't get a hug or two from from patients. And to me, that's what I think you kind of alluded to that earlier, that, doing technical dentistry, crown preparations, restorative work, that can get old. When you tie in the non-technical side of dentistry and you can develop these relational, this relational capital with your patients, there's nothing more fulfilling in my life, to be quite honest with you, than knowing that I can truly partner up with these people and help them in a way that helps them. They make their own decisions in terms of the direction that they want to go, and I just help them to achieve that.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. So you've seen a massive change in your type of practice and since joining the AADPA and the value it's brought to you. Alan, I mean, so why don't you describe what your practice looks like and what it looked, and start with what it looked like when you started. So, 20 plus years ago when you got started,
right.
What it looks like today.
So when I first started, we were a 4 operatory practice, just my father and I and 2 hygienists, and we've changed where we are a 10 operatory group practice. Besides myself, 2 other general practice associates, 2 periodontists, an endodontist, an orthodontist, and a surgeon. So and usually 2 to 3 hygienists going at each day. So we've grown it quite a bit. And I'm a little bit different than Phil. I do accept insurance, so I do things a little bit different. Phil is a fee for service, and I'm striving for one day to be able to do what Phil does. But we've just gone the other route and worked with insurance plans, and we've made it work and been able to grow.
So it's been so the AADPA then has sort of introduced you to ways to grow your practice as well. I mean, and it's not necessarily just leadership, it's not personal development, but marketing as well. So here are some of the ways that other practices are growing. You get to tap into like minds, but also like minds who maybe are doing something completely different and take advantage of it. So there's that opportunity for you and Phil to interface. Phil gets to take advantage of what you've done on the growth side. You get to take advantage of what Phil's doing on that relational capital side, as he described, or what I call emotional equity. So, I mean, it sounds like a great marriage of individuals coming together on a routine basis.
Absolutely.
What, how really is AADPA different than, say, for example, I mean, you guys you have regional meetings and you have a national meeting. You have a national meeting every year. You have a couple of regional meetings. How is it different going to an AADPA meeting versus maybe going to the Greater New York or the Hinman or some other association's meeting? What happens? What's different? What happens at your meetings?
Go ahead, Phil. Why don't you go first?
I'll unmute you, Phil. Sorry.
All right, it's okay. Like Alan, I do a lot of continuing education. There was a time in my life where I probably did it so much to a fault, but I really thrived on going to these meetings and learning lots. And it was just me going to these meetings and absorbing as much as I could, and then going back and trying to apply it in my practice. And I still love doing that. I still am a CE junkie. But the thing about AADPA is that you can go there and you can develop relationships just like we can with our patients, but with these other people in AADPA, and study and learn together to become more of the complete dentist. And so we're there all seeking the same thing. When you go to these large meetings like the Hinman or the Chicago Midwinter, which is what I used to always go to, you're just there and there's huge masses of people, and you're just one in, you feel like you're a star in the galaxy, and that you're just, you kind of get lost in it all. In AADPA, you're going to be welcome. You're going to be a part of it, whether you're a first timer or whether you've been there for 20 years. You walk in and you feel warm and cared for, and there's not a year that goes by that on Sunday when I'm going home to Nebraska, I'm just as sad as anything, because I'm leaving all my friends and I'm not done learning the things I wanted to learn from them. So it's a completely different kind of a feeling than when I go to any other meeting. It's just, I don't know, it's hard to describe. It's a lot of heart stuff. It's a lot of, head stuff, a combination of the head and the heart. And It's not in the technical side of our brain. It's on the other side of our brain that we're really exploring in AADPA, and you've got to have a blend of both sides of your brain working, in my opinion, to be able to really be that complete dentist.
Yeah. Alan, what kind of numbers are we talking about at a typical regional meeting? Because you do a couple of those a year, and then you have your national meeting. What kind of numbers, how many dentists are attending these? And I mean, because obviously some dentists don't mind being a fly on the wall, but others really do want to go somewhere and interact and have conversations that are meaningful and develop relationships that are lifelong, that are meaningful. What's been your experience there with numbers?
Yeah, so regionals, we try to keep it small and intimate. So we're usually anywhere between, I would say, 40 to 60, dentists there. So it's nice that we can interact not only with the speakers but with each other, sitting around the lunch table. Or in fact, we're going to have one again up in this October up in New Jersey. We're going to have a mastermind and be able to spend a few hours and really talk with each other, what's working, what's not working, and really, dig deep into how we can improve our practices, or any aspect that we want to talk about. Annual meetings can run anywhere between 250 to, we've gotten up to the 400 or 500 on occasions. But again, even though it's a little bit bigger, it's still on that intimate, smaller feel to it. That again, you can use. A lot of times you have a choice of a speaker, and again, you can interact and interact not only with the other members or attendees there, but with the speakers. And like Phil said, you just learn from everybody. You come away with so much information, and it is you spend a few days with friends that you haven't seen for a couple months. It is a sad day when you do have to go home.
Yeah. I'll come back to your regional meeting that's taking place in October, and then of course the March annual meeting. I'll come back to that. Paul, question for you. If I'm a younger dentist and I'm just getting started out, I'm maybe a year or two or even 3 or 4 years in, what would I expect to get out of AADPA? I mean, as you refer to it as AADPA, what would be a big benefit for me wanting to join, or why should I join?
I guess I would go back to where I was back at that stage of the game. Seeking to do a lot of technical dentistry, not getting it off the shelf. When I started going to AADPA and honing my skills as a leader in communication, developing my relationships with my patients, that's when I started really getting to do the more complex, restorative, larger cases. So you need both. We have to be proficient in dentistry. Obviously, we got to be good technicians. But in order to be a complete, fulfilled dentist, in my opinion, as a young dentist, I know it's challenging to be away from your family, to be away from your practice. You probably have debt. You may have insurance companies breathing down your neck. And we want to let those dentists know that there's a different way to doing dentistry. You don't have to be beholden to insurance companies. You can run your practice the way that you want to, and you can control the shots. But you got to get your ducks in a row from an emotional standpoint, and you've got to be able to, hone that side of your practice and of yourself. And if you can get your team on board with you, that's critical. So you got to be able to go back, and if you can't bring them to the meeting, you've got to be able to go back and help them to understand what it is that you learned and how you can develop your practice toward these goals that you might have. So I think in order for young dentists to grow and be more proficient and more complete, I think AADPA is the best way, and in my opinion, the only way to go where you're going to learn those skills and that mindset of achieving that. You're going to hang around with some dentists that have been there on that journey way before you, along that continuum, and they're going to have an opportunity to rub shoulders with some of the giants in dentistry that have been there and done that and been through all the challenges that every one of us have been through. So as a young dentist, I think it's critically important to be able to attend a meeting like an AADPA meeting.
You mentioned something along the lines that we don't have enough time to make all the mistakes in life to make in order to find out what works and what doesn't. So anytime we have access to someone who's already traveled the road we want to go where we can tap into their mind, find out where they screwed up, what they did to fix it, how they might have avoided it the next time. It cuts the learning curve into just a fraction of what it might normally take.
Yeah, amen.
I mean, you know, if you were to go and, God forbid, something happened to you and you had to go start a new office, but if you did that, you could do it in a fraction of the time you did the first one, right? I mean, just knowing what you know and having your background. So to me, anytime you can take advantage of the opportunity where others have done what you want to do, and you can tap into them and follow their lead, because success leaves clues. It's like footprints in the sand. I mean, you get to take advantage of that. So Alan, from your perspective, for a mature dentist, what would they get out of membership? Because we do, I mean, you know, let's face it, dentists are practicing longer, practicing into their mid 60s and some 70s. I have an 80-plus-year-old client who is just, by the way, phenomenal. And I can't keep up with the guy. I'll be honest with you. I have a hard time keeping up with what he is up to. So what would a mature dentist get out of membership in AADPA?
You know, and I think that's a good question. You know, that's kind of our avatar. We're looking for not only the young dentists, but also those who have been in practice for a while, maybe need a little help with sometimes with one aspect of their practice. We've just started a mentoring program with our academy where we'll help, whether it's a new dentist or somebody who's been doing it for 20 years but needs something's just not going right in their practice. And I think we're also a great organization because we have, you know, for somebody who's well established and doing well, because there's like-minded dentists in this academy who are looking to always improve, not only their business, but their personal growth, their family, their leadership. So I think we can, you know, we deal with, I think we fit in with a lot of different aspects of a seasoned dentist, and we're there to, you know, any one or two of those aspects we would work well with.
Yeah. I liken it to when you stop learning, when you stop wanting to be a part of something like the AADPA, it's probably time to hang it up. I mean, realistically, that may be harsh, but if you're not interested in continuing to learn both the clinical side and the leadership side, the business side, the management side, it's probably time to go maybe open up a McDonald's or a Subway. I don't know. I mean, but to me, that's a trait of someone who is a success. They are in a lifetime pursuit of learning and excellence and surrounding themselves with the people that will help them achieve their goals. So I think, you know, to me, membership offers much to any age. Let's talk about maybe something that might shock our viewers and our listeners about the AADPA. What is there something that may be unfamiliar or shocking that our folks listening might learn or might know about the AADPA? Phil, I'll go to you first.
Shocking.
Well, Phil.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alan. Are you going?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Phil.
I think, okay. All right. I'll go. Jerry, I would say the thing that I felt that was the most eye-opening for me was the camaraderie, the open sharing from other dentists. Like I mentioned earlier, I've got friends all over the country that I can call if I need a question on sleep apnea. We have a great member and friend, Dr. Kent Smith down in Dallas, that's quite a renowned expert. We have a renowned expert on the oral systemic link, Dr. Susan Maples, and member Danny Balbrow. We have all kinds of people around the country that are amazing in their own right, and the sharing that goes along with these meetings is just amazing. And I can call them. I had a patient not too long ago who's a missionary down in the Dominican Republic, and he was back in the country traveling around visiting their churches that help support them. He had problems with a tooth, and a good friend of ours in Indianapolis ended up taking care of my patient, because I called AADPA member and Randy Shoup, and Randy took care of my friend Bill, and he was so happy to do that, and it was just a blessing in Bill's life. So that was one of the things that I felt was the most shocking, because I've never been to any meeting where it was so I felt so cared for. I felt like I was really included. I felt like I was a part of this meeting from the beginning. And so it's a wonderfully warm feeling. And for you to have an opportunity to learn from all these people that are there, and even if they're not there, you can still call them and contact them. And they're just, people are really willing to open up and share what they've learned.
Yeah, that's a big part. You don't want to go to, you don't want to belong to something, and you certainly don't want to go to a meeting and invest time, energy, and money and get there and realize everybody's like this. They're holding everything, close to the vest. They don't want to talk. They don't want to share. They're afraid that you might steal something from them, which, that's the exact opposite when it comes to achieving success. It's like the more you share, the more you give away, the more knowledge, information you give away, the more enriched your life can become. So, I love that idea of sharing and that masterminding that goes on, really invaluable. Alan, what about you? Something that would be shocking for people to learn about AADPA?
I would agree with a lot what Phil said. It is, you go to local meetings and there isn't a lot of sharing going on. It's very competitive. That's one of the big differences is that everyone is willing to share ideas on whatever subject that we're talking about at that time, and there's not that competition. And you're right. The more you give, the more you get back. I guess that's people who are some of the elite in the industry are willing, especially when I was younger, when I first came in. Like I said, I'm sitting next to somebody like a Bob Frazier, who's been a consultant for I don't know how many years now, one of the top in the country, and you can sit down with him and have a conversation like he's your best buddy, and really cares about you, and we'll sit down and talk with you. You don't find that at your local meetings. It just doesn't happen. So I think it's just the members caring about each other, willing to help each other, and having some fun while we're doing it too. So it's not always business. We can have a little fun while we're doing it, and everyone's a good sport about it.
Right. You're right. There has to be a component of fun mixed in with there. Otherwise, business would be really boring. I make it a point. In anything I do, if I'm not having a good time, I'm not going to do it. There's just too many things in life that can escape us that are fun that we should be doing. And if we're stuck in a rut and doing things we don't love, that's a really unfortunate place to be in a massive time waste. So, well, look, you guys, I've got, I want to make sure we share with everyone how they can learn more about membership. This is sort of I wouldn't call it a membership sales pitch. I would call it someplace that you can learn about membership to find out if it's right for you. Because I know you guys do have a process that members go through. You just don't write a check and you're in. It is a process, and I think it's a process that should be respected and continue to be utilized. I like it. I like how it works. Why don't you explain, Alan, a little bit about what's coming up in October, your regional meeting where folks
Sure.
learn more about the AADPA and experience it firsthand. And then, Phil, if you wouldn't mind, maybe you could spend a few minutes talking about the national meeting coming up in March of 2017. So go ahead, Alan.
Sure. So this October 21st, it's a Friday. We're going to have a one-day meeting in my hometown in Parsippany, New Jersey. We're going to have it at one of the local hotels here in the Embassy Suites. We're going to be getting together. We have one of our esteemed members, Sunita Merriman, is going to be talking about sleep apnea and how she's incorporated into her practice. And she's basically turned her practice from a general practice into like a sleep apnea center. So there'll definitely be some great information coming from her. And we're lucky enough to have yourself, Jerry, come to talk a little bit about dental marketing in the morning and help us facilitate our mastermind in the afternoon. So I'm really looking forward to it, Matt. I personally love masterminds. I can't tell you how much information I get when I go to mastermind, just hearing from other doctors what they're doing and what they're trying. And listen, not everything works, but you got to try it. And when you hit, once in a while you hit a home run and it's great. And you always find a few ideas to try and they become successful a lot of times. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. We'll get to meet a lot of our members will be here. We're going to have some staff members as well. We'll have a staff member mastermind going on. We'll have a good time, and I would love to have everybody come out and come join us.
Cool. I'm going to do something real quick. I'm going to share my screen here first. So for those who are tuning in on the web and watching this streaming on the web, this is the AADPA website. It's aadpa.org. So when you go there, this is the website you're going to see. And if you'd like to attend the meeting coming up, for the regional meeting coming up October 21st, you can go to Meetings and Education and then click on Regional Meetings. And that's simply going to bring up the most current regional meeting that is available. And here you'll see the New Jersey Regional Meeting, Practice Management Jersey Style, and the details. And you can click here to register or get a form. And then, Phil, why don't you talk a little bit about the annual meeting that's coming up in 2017?
Well, Alan and I have been working hard on this meeting, and we're so excited about presenting it. It's going to be March 2nd through the 4th. We're changing the format a little bit this year. Usually we would start out on a Wednesday night, and this year we're going to start on a Thursday night. We're going to move our tours and our time of golf. If people want that, they can come in early. But we're going to have, starting Thursday night, we have kind of a special surprise. It's not really a surprise, but one of our honorary members, Dr. Pete Dawson, who's right there in St. Pete, is going to address everybody. And then, as you can see on the screen, we're going to start off Thursday night. Lisa Clark-Price is going to be talking about one of the most significantly held events in the United States, and that's the development of the Statute of Responsibility, which is in the process of being developed. The prototype is already there, and it's going to be in California, and it's a response to a dream by Viktor Frankl, Dr. Viktor Frankl, who wrote in Man's Search for Meaning, how the United States should have a statute of responsibility on the West Coast. Well, this dream now, after more than 60 years, is becoming a reality. And Lisa is married to the artist, the world-renowned commission artist, Gary Lee Price. That's going to be the commission artist for that statute of responsibility. So we're going to hear from her about it not being just a monument. It's more than that. It's a whole movement about responsibility. And it ties in perfectly with the legacy the theme of legacy that we are designing the whole meeting around. Garrett Gunderson and Woody Woodward, we're having some breakout sessions with them, some breakouts and some general sessions on financial success, both of these guys are absolutely amazing, and you will love them. Garrett is very, very renowned. They've both written books. Woody's more entrepreneurial than anybody I've ever met. He's just an amazing individual. Our own member, Dr. Larry Cook, is going to be talking on ethics. He speaks around the country for the American Dental Association. And Larry, you would think that a topic of ethics might sound a little bit boring, but it's not. One of our longtime members called me up and said, Phil, I just heard Larry speak, and it is AADPA worthy. It's going to be fantastic. So he's got a two-part presentation. And then, Gary, we're so excited to have you there. The state of dentistry, that's going to be just fantastic. I'm so excited to get a chance to listen to you speak. My good friend Blair Kolkowski is going to be talking about leadership and how, as a leader, that can help to really solidify our legacy and how we can develop that team that we so desire for the future. When we do a strategic planning and we work with our team, we say, this is what we want our practice to look like 5 or 10 or 20 years from now. Guess what? It takes really good leadership to get there. Then we have Gary Lee Price, and that's, that is kind of the creme de la creme in terms of, he's kind of our in my opinion, kind of our star of the show, because Gary Lee's name is going to be so known throughout the world when this statute of responsibility in 2020 is unveiled and introduced to the world. And Gary's going to come. He's going to do this, actually a project with clay, where we're all going to get some clay, and we're going to do some work with that. And when you hear Gary speak, you feel like you are in the presence of a master, and he is a master. And he's just one of the most amazing individuals that I've ever come across. Our own member, Danny Bobrow, is going to be talking about oral systemic health. Danny is very proficient in that. He speaks all over the world, and he's just an unbelievable speaker regarding oral systemic health. He also does a lot of other presentations that we won't have time for, but you don't want to miss Danny, because he's going to be fantastic. And then closing it out on Saturday, late Saturday afternoon, is going to be Ty Bennett, who's a very good friend of mine. And Ty has several books that he's written, and he will make you laugh, he will make you cry, and he will make you think about the legacy of your life, the 2 most important days of your life. And I know what they are. You're going to want to come and find out what they are, because they are significant. And Ty is a master storyteller. He does presentations, keynote presentations all over the world. And we are really blessed to have Ty come and speak with us. And then Saturday night, we're going to have a fantastic band from right here in Nebraska called the Raw Nerve, mostly composed of dentists. And these guys will rock your socks. They are just so much fun. And we have a couple of AADPA members, Dr. Jim Jenkins and Steve Pacer, that are part of that group. And you'll just love them. So we've got a great, fantastic schedule, really well balanced in terms of financial, communication, leadership, the creative side of our world, in our mind. That it's just going to be a fantastic meeting. And on top of it all, we're going to be here, as you can see on the screen, at the Vinoy Renaissance, one of the most pristine properties in all of the St. Pete, Tampa area. So you will absolutely love that. And I just would implore you all to be there and come and join us, because you'll just love the meeting. It'll be fabulous.
Oh,
that was long.
Awesome.
Sorry.
That's awesome. So you can see the website here on our screen share. It's just go to aadpa.org if you're listening, and you can click on meetings and check that out. But Alan and Phil, it sounds like you guys have just done an absolute phenomenal job putting together a couple of great upcoming events that new members can check out and learn more. I would encourage everyone who's on our webinar that's going to watch this later to make sure you go to the AADPA website. Again, it's AADPA, American Academy of Dental Practice, and then there's an extra A at the end. There's a story about that, but we won't get into that today. AADPA.org, and learn more about the organization. Fellas, before we go, any last words of wisdom you'd like to impart on the folks that have been paying attention and been so kind with their time tonight?
I'll just say that I'm so thankful for anybody that's had a chance to listen to this. Jerry, thank you for hosting this. And we as AADPA members really feel like we're the best kept secret in dentistry, because we know that we can get technical dentistry. You can't turn around without finding a meeting somewhere in your hometown or a fun place to go and travel with masses of people, and you can learn technical dentistry. But in order to be a real complete dentist, AADPA is where we get it. And there's no other meeting like it in the world, and it will offer some things that are going to fill your cup, and your spouse will love it as well. There's so many things for them. It's not geared toward just dentistry at all. It's about life and about learning about life and our personal growth and our journeys toward self-actualization and fulfillment. So we just want to let other people know that there's a different way of, and what we feel is a better way of sharing and learning and growing together.
Awesome. Alan, how about you?
You know what? Phil put it pretty well. I can't really say much more than that, but I'd say, you know what? If New Jersey's a great time of year in October, and who wouldn't want to get away in March to Florida? So, come on down to one of these meetings. And I think if you came to a meeting, you'd really see what we're all about, and you'd be hooked, just like we've been for the last 20 plus years. And like Phil said as well, it's not just for the doctors; it's for spouses and staff as well. So, if you can, come on down to a meeting.
Fantastic. Well, fellas, I appreciate your time this evening, and I appreciate the time of all the folks who tuned in, either by phone or by webinar, and for those who are going to watch this at a later point in time. For Dr. Phil Strebe and Dr. Alan Rauschberg, thank you, gentlemen, very much. My name is Jerry Jones, and if you have any questions, go to aadpa.org. and check out the organization. You're going to love it. And I hope to see you in October or March at an upcoming event. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Jerry.
All right, Jerry. Thank you.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.